Hello, hello, mic check.
We're live. We are live. Hello and welcome. I am James of ARC, and you are here watching ARC live from Network School in the Singapore Johor Special Economic Zone in paradise, basically. Thank you for being here yet again. Remember that you can come and join us at any point. It looks better than this. There's like a rolling start date on the first of every single month, and you can come and lock in and just like work on whatever you're building. Lock in and build. You're going to meet three incredible builders that we have here with ARC with us right now at Network School over the next hour, and we're going to kick right in. So, Kevan, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Really excited to be here.
I feel like you're one of the most useful people for me that's in ARC at the moment, right? Like we have everyone is like very builder here. Like we have like a very technical cohort right now, for example. Everyone's shipping code, building products, getting stuff out there. Kevan is definitely still technical, but you actually understand how to get customers as well. And so I know that after we've done this, you're going to see, he's going to give me like a list of 10 things that I was really bad at and that need to get better. I'm just looking forward to it. It's like anytime I do anything, it's like, oh, that wasn't good enough, and it's like, here we are. So yeah, again, but what are you working on? Tell me, what are you up to?
Yeah, so I have been doing marketing for about 8-9 years. I have an electrical engineering degree. And when I was in college, I was like, this is not happening for me. I mean, I'm not made to work in some like small office trying to fix some electrical stuff. So I was looking for alternative paths to get on with my career. And I started building Instagram pages. And I built like 12 Instagram pages that had like 40,000, 50,000, 70,000 following. And that taught me affiliate marketing, because then I was seeing all these big companies come to me offering me money to sell their products. That was kind of my first exposure to marketing. And then I realized like this can be a really good market. So I built like a small syndicate of 60 people like me who had a lot of Instagram pages in India. And then we were promoting Bollywood movies through all these different Instagram pages. So that was kind of like my first exposure to marketing. And since then, I have been in marketing. I have been running a marketing agency for about 6 years. We do growth hacking. We do community building. We work in a lot of Web3 AI kind of stuff. We have, very specific Reddit focused marketing agencies as well. So that's kind of my marketing background. Now, if you like, one of the things that I think most desk workers struggle with is ability to find meaning in their life. And I think early on I did struggle with that as well. And then I found some meaning. And then if I look at my life, like, okay, what do I want to do in my life? I want to help a lot of people. And the best way to do is become an entrepreneur, build a lot of value for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, build a lot of value for yourself. Mm-hmm. So one of the goals that I have is to build $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was initially starting with my marketing agency and working in marketing, it was like a high pressure environment. I was learning a lot of things really fast. I was working with a lot of different people. And then in 2023, things started to go smooth. I was able to offload a lot of my work to other people. I was able to kind of chill and relax. And then I was like sitting on an airport one day, and I realized I'm not taking big enough risks in my life. And then I just remembered like my past self, like who would just jump from anywhere. He would see an opportunity and he would be like, let's just jump. And like I was trying to settle in my life at that point, and I'm like, no, that's not the meaning of like, that's not where you're going to get the excitement. That's not where you're going to get the zeal of your life. It's not who I am. So I need to do things that are exciting. So then I was completely in marketing. At that point, I did not know how to write a single line of code. After that, I started building products. I was like, yeah, every day I'm going to start building products. And even though you have experience in business, experience in marketing, you cannot just build products from day one. Even just like finding something of value, finding something that actually solves problem, finding something that actually provides something useful, it's not possible. So I started learning code, and I basically started learning the process of finding those problems, finding ways to provide value. Since then I have built like 75 different products. Most of them I have just killed, and
75 now. Yeah. Are you competing with Peter Levels to see who can produce the most of these things, right? What is that the goal? Or but that's interesting, because most people that produce 75 products aren't marketers, right? And actually part of the reason they produce 75 products is because they keep building things and not even trying to market them, or not even having the capacity or the understanding of how to do that, right? But when I hear you say, no, I built 75 different products, I'm not concerned about your ability to sort of like to market them. I'm like, okay, that truly wasn't a product that you like felt was worthwhile and that you wanted to continue with.
Yeah. So like last 2 years, it was the part of process to learn to how to validate the product, right?
Sure.
So it's build fast, burn fast. Just build it, and if people don't like it, burn it. And the way, so initially I mentioned my goal is to build $1 billion company. You
Sure.
don't build $1 billion companies by building mediocre ideas.
Sure.
You have to have something that I would tell you like, hey, I'm building this, and your eyes should light up. My customers' eyes should light up. They should be constantly following up with me when I can deliver that product, when I can uh, show them that product, when
Sure.
I can demo them that product. If that feeling is not there in your problem statement or in your value statement, then your product is most likely not going to work. Now, usually I would recommend anyone to do this before building product, but because we are in the world of AI, and because building things is like now few days of work, at least the first MVP conceptual version of it, I would recommend to just go and first do it and then try to explain it to people, because that would be a better experience for everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because the problem with that, right, is that even if it just takes you a few days, right, like it's like, okay, well, 75 times 3 days is a year, right? And I don't know. I think I'm like, I'm biased as well, because I don't even use the vibe coding tools, right? But I feel like, it can be useful to explain concepts to people, but typically if you're explaining concepts to people, it means that you're giving them answers. And actually a big challenge in doing early validation with customers and being able to actually truly listen to them is to not be telling them the answer, but be asking them questions and understanding whether they actually give you the answer back that perhaps is the thing that you're building, right? As opposed to constantly leading them with questions, right? So that you're telling them what you want to hear, as opposed to letting them tell you something that they truly want, and want to hear, right? And so I don't know. So I worry even that, like, the 3 days, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that does compound. And actually the hard part is just talking to customers or being able to access customers. Like, most people can't even find the customer to talk to, right? That's what's so tough.
So I think that is a little bit different for me, because I already work with about 20-25 businesses.
Sure.
Right? I already have a lot of people coming up to me asking for solutions in marketing, solution in business development, solution in all these different things. Now, initially, when I was starting to build, I was building the products that I did not understand, right? I was building the products that were kind of outside of my field, and I felt the very same problem that you are describing, that, hey, you should go and talk to first. Now, in recent times, the product that I have been building are the products that I need.
Sure.
Are the products that my employees need.
Yep.
Are the products that my customers need. So, there is a feeling that I get from time to time that, hey, if there was a product for this work would be much easier and the outcome would be much better. And whenever I have that feeling, that's when I try to go and try to build something.
Yep. Yep.
So uh, so I think that is a bit different. And then because I have a lot of marketing resources, I have already like hundreds of tools that I pay for, hundreds of people that I can ping at any time,
Yep.
databases
Yep.
that I can ring up. Getting out to people and getting out to customers and users, and at least getting the first meeting becomes easier. And I think that's kind of the experience of life, right?
Yeah.
You talk about, hey, how to raise funds for companies. It is like you don't start it today, you started 10 years ago, right?
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
how do you validate your product? You build enough people who would listen to you for like last 10 years, and then it becomes easier to validate your product.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess the point there you're making, right, is if you're solving a problem that you have yourself, right, that you've directly experienced yourself, you have much less market risk, right? If you're solving a theoretical problem, you need to go and talk to some fucking people, right? Because maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe you're making some really bad assumptions, right?
Yeah.
If you're solving a problem for yourself, it's at least true for yourself. The question is, how big is that market, right? How many other people have the same problem that you have, right? And that's when you need to engaging. But worst case scenario, if you build 75 things and you've solved 75 problems for yourself, you're probably becoming an extremely efficient individual or extremely happy individual if you've solved 75 problems for yourself.
Yeah, and so it's a journey towards like building a $1 billion company or helping like 10 million people in the world. It's not going to be a journey of few years.
Sure.
It's going to be a journey of few decades.
Sure.
And it is. So if I look at like my last 2 years, and if I look at my first product and my last product, there is a huge difference between user experience. There is huge difference between what I expect users to do and what I do in the back end.
Yep.
on my code.
Yep.
With each interaction. So you build a product and you think it's a great product, and then you look at your customer use it and you're like, shit, this is really sucks. This is really bad product or something like that. And basically that teaches you a lot of things. And over time, when you are trying to build more and more things, you take all that with you. You build better principles, you build better systems.
Sure.
You build better engine and better machine.
So like, why did you end up here?
I was alone in my home.
You weren't alone. You had your wonderful wife to start with, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was in my home. So I was really afraid that I would develop biases. When you are building alone and you are not talking to people, you can build for months and months and produce something that is completely useless.
Sure.
Right. And yeah, I'm learning at my pace. I'm seeing a lot of things, but having 20 more people around you who are trying to do very much the same thing, who are approaching that problem in their knowledge base, in their experience, is extremely valuable, right? Like, I'm not a developer. I have not been developing for last 10 years, right? But I have someone who sits besides me, and he just cracks on with the code, and the way he does thing, I'm like, man, why are you making sure there are so many checks? Why are you creating obstacles for yourself when you're writing code? And you understand, like, hey, this is the process. Like, this is how you are supposed to do things. So I came here to be able to kind of validate a lot of things that I have learned, learn more, try to build better products, just meet some crazy people like me.
Do you think that you are succeeding at what you wanted to come here for?
I think so. I think so. I have a really good learning model. I would say I have a rule which is like read 12 books a year. I know you are very anti-reading, but I have a rule which is like read 12 books a year. I I spend few hours of my day trying to watch something that will kind of improve my knowledge. So usually I can get a lot of information even when I'm alone. But just being able to interact with people who have the experiences is on another level. And I would give big shout out to you. You I so this Earlier this year I read a book called How to Raise Venture Funds. I have taken like MIT openware courses where it's like, okay, how to raise funds. And I have a lot of information. I have a lot of mathematical information in terms of, hey, what goes in what round? What are the terms? How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? But understanding the psychology of VCs, understanding the psychology of people who are actually putting money in your business, how you should treat them, how you should be communicating with them, none of those things teach that. They teach the mathematics of that. And when you speak with James, who I think has worked in this VC field for about 13 years, you learn that. You are like, I pitched James an idea last week, and the first question he asked me, I was like, clean bold. I'm like, if I figure this question out, I'm going to raise a lot of money. It's like, there are some aspects that are really, really hard to understand online.
Sure. I think it's very hard to understand what the hell this experience is like online as well, without kind of like being here, right? It's like, it's a little paradise. But again, I know you're at this phase at the minute again where like you are iterating, right? Like we've been speaking about a couple of different products, like since you've sort of like been here, right? Both of which potentially have, a big opportunities, right? If they're executed in the right way, and you're in this phase of sort of exploring. Is there something you want to direct people to that are kind of like watching kind of like this? Like, maybe it's just, maybe it's just one of your old firms, to keep on banging your check. I don't know. Yeah.
So, if you are, looking to grow your business, if you are looking for marketing, if you are looking for anything that would help your business in terms of marketing, I have built a lot of tools, which I am giving all for free. I do not charge for any of my tools at the moment, which is very contrary to what I say when I say like I'm building $1 billion company. But yeah, come and talk to me. I would love to just speak with you. I would love to help you.
Where do they find you?
So my website is kevan.in. You can go to kevan.in/x and you will find my x/l and you will find my LinkedIn. Yeah.
It's great. And I would just say, sorry, go finish.
Yeah, /G and you will find my GitHub. So whatever platform you like.
And I would just say thank you, because again, I mean, like, it's not just words. Like I always see you helping people and trying to contribute back to everybody here. So thank you very much for that. And to me as well included. So thank you very much for that. And I look forward to seeing you going and creating this $1 billion business over the coming years.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, dude. Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you. Oh, get out of here. Everyone that comes on this has like one fucking job. It's like when you finish, leave, give your mic to the next person, and like every fucking time people can't do it. Like not going at Kevan, right? Like just like that's what it is. Oh, look, we're going straight in.
Yeah, you're ready for it.
How you doing? You good? Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
Oh, right. The straight in, mate. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, sniffling a little bit, which is a bloody nightmare. Not getting enough sleep. You work later than me. Like at the minute, I just can't seem to stop working like before midnight, right? Like it's just like I'm always up here.
And you see me there
any time I am here leaving at midnight, you are still here,
Yeah.
working at the laptop, right? Like
Properly nocturnal.
red shaded glasses on, which is sort of like dress code at NS, right?
Yeah.
If you want to come here and fit in and like, instantly be at one, just turn up with some red shades.
And they're like, oh, he's legit.
Yeah, yeah. And that we should have worn them to the.
No. Only if we turn the lights off.
We should have done we're on light mode at the minute. We have light and dark mode for this office. You can't quite see. But you work hard. What are you working hard on?
I am trying to build the next generation of tech company, the next generation of tech companies. So I've worked at small dream. I've worked at startups. I've worked at big tech. I've worked at my own agency. And from all of these, there was something missing. And it was the foundation for starting a company and having the incentive to build with people around you, to have other people in the world, in the community, see your company and be like, I like that. Not only do I want to use it, but I want to help build it with you. That infrastructure, those tools just don't exist right now. Companies are siloed and they're doing their own thing and they're doing it well. But I'm trying to build the foundation for people to collaborate on projects together. And the way to do that is incorporating Web3 into it. So I'm building the first Web2, Web3 hybrid companies. So it's a traditional tech company. Right now I'm building the first prototype of it, which is a GPT wrapper that is completely contained and managed by one DAO that has a multi-sig wallet. It funds all of the AI calls and all of the web hosting, and then all of the payments from that app go right back to the DAO. And that DAO can manage a code base and all of its deployments. So I started getting into the tech, but it's not necessary. Right now, I'm building entirely open source because I think this needs to exist. And then once this exists, I have so many ideas for what I want to spawn off and build with it. But right now I'm trying to build the baseline platform where people can start a company and collaborate with their community worldwide.
Because again, if you're building open source software, there's a thing called like GitHub.
Yeah.
And you can spin up a repo, and then like anyone can make pull requests of it, can contribute, can fork, can like collaborate and keep on building a code base, right?
Yeah.
And that's been around for a while,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to take that and go, okay, how do we take the same approach to building an entire company as opposed to just a code base? Is that sort of fair?
Yeah, so when I talk about this online, my most common feedback is from people being like, open source exists, right? Like, yeah, but where is open source? How are they monetizing? How is this a community that is building together? Usually it's open source that then gets forked and people build their own thing, instead of people continuously collectively building and having one revenue source and having all of that equity go to the people that helped build it. So I'm starting to coin the term community source. So there's the current private tech companies, there's open source, and we're somewhere in between, which is community source. Right now, my code is open source. Eventually, once all the tools get closer, you can have a simple mechanism where a developer can just apply and sign an agreement saying, like, have the code base be private, but then a developer can apply to just see the code base and start contributing to it, and they'll be able to. But community source, it's a code base that a community owns and governs and builds together, and all have equity in that company.
Because I guess the thing is like open source, right? It's like the value of open source is insane, right? It's like every dollar spent on open source is worth like $200 or something to the economy. Like,
oh man, I'm really helping the economy right now.
But I think someone should fact check. It might not be that. And let's say if every dollar is at least like $10 to the economy, right?
Yeah.
When I first started coding, actually, like in 2011, something like that, 2012, I could not believe the amount of IP that you could just leverage for free. Like open source code. Like just someone who had come from, the city and finance, and then like starting to code and just like the amount of open source software. I mean, whenever you're coding now and you're vibe coding, you are standing on the shoulders of giants, right? You are
completely.
You're doing your npm install packet, and you're just like relying on all of this shit you pay $0 for, that has just had man years of labor go into creating all this stuff. It was if you don't code whatever it is, it's really hard, I feel like, to truly understand
just
open
how
source.
much there is.
Yeah, and just how valuable it is, this stuff that you're doing, right? I mean, there are things that you build in 5 minutes that are because you have leveraged a million years of human labor for free to do it, right? It's insane.
I'm so in the weeds of it because I'm trying to only build with open source right now. And there's open source everywhere. There's tons of packages. There's tons of templates, code bases, but they're all just like a tiny starter. Open source technologies into, here's a company.
Yep.
Here's your full pipeline of a company with everything that a tech company has in terms of data monitoring and deployments and test infrastructure, and spawn that off just over and over again. So I've gone through so many open source libraries and hacking them all together into a cohesive project, which is something that I was surprised didn't fully exist already. Pieces of it exist, but I couldn't find, hey, here's your open source company. Here you go.
Yeah, I mean,
which I get, but
yeah, it's
one of.
I mean, part of the reason I brought up the open source stuff and reiterate that is right, is that these people create open source and are not necessarily rewarded for that open source software,
Yeah,
right?
so people aren't building what I'm dreaming of, because in our current society, no one is incentivized to be building it.
So why does all of this open source already exist?
There's people that are passionate about it, like the Linux Foundation and Apache Foundation. Like, they're doing great things. Why does it exist? They think it's beneficial for the world, and it is.
Yeah.
And these companies, these foundations, leave so much money on the table, which is tough. Because even though they're doing great things, they aren't big tech. They're not the ones raking in so much money. There's also a really common business model these days, which is open source the core foundation of your product. So lots, like half of the Y Combinator funded projects that you see, almost all of them are like, here's our GitHub, here's our open source. And it's like a freemium model, but they're all playing the game of, the moment you want to start having deployment infrastructure and security, that's when we start paywalling you. So right now, some there's Linux and Apache and others that are like properly, like, we're just giving open source. And then there's a lot of companies that are doing, I like this model, but the open source is kind of a marketing gimmick. It's a,
But, and again, so you're not doing, you're leveraging all this open source stuff, right? But the point is, you're not doing a pure private company. You're trying to do this middle ground where developers are contributing towards a code base, but they're able to effectively monetize that inside a shared structure. And you use the word DAO.
Yeah.
I
have strong opinions about DAOs too. I'm trying to minimize for now my on-chain, like, DAOs are really good at being the source of truth for your finances, and they have governance models for voting. I've been in leadership roles before where I'm like, everyone should vote on everything. Disaster. Like, it's like you definitely need a leader, someone leading the charge. But Balaji has pioneered it and has talked about a lot of what he calls on-chain equity. It's just, and he talks about everything going on-chain. I think that the chain, whichever one you choose, will be the source of truth for your data for things in the future.
Sure.
And so we're starting there right now.
But that's very like a very traditional thing, right? If you're just bringing typical company structures on chain, if you're tokenizing cap tables, if you're trying to just like move title, right, of share certificates on sort of like chain. This is one of the things I know, like, again, 10 years ago, I used to write a newsletter every week, just going, sort of like Britishly, sort of sarcastically commenting on like what lesson crypto had relearned this week, right? like, oh, look, we reinvented this wheel this week, right? Like, like DAOs, I was like, oh wait, like publicly owned companies.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, have I heard that before somewhere? It's almost like we created this thing called maybe a company that allows multiple people to own it, and we have publicly listed companies that have many, but there are weaknesses of these sort of models, right? But some of this stuff is not new. But it says, do you think is it like bringing that stuff on chain, or is it something different? What would you say?
In some aspects, is bringing things on chain. It's reinventing the wheel.
It's not reinventing the wheel. That's upgrading the wheel.
It's upgrading the wheel. Their businesses right now are held together by social agreements and the promise to uphold laws in the country. And then all the business agreements are like, we will maximize shareholder value. Laws are different country to country, and agreements can fall apart. But when you have the foundation of your company being Web3 code, there's no arguing with that. You can vote to change it, but there's no agreement that's going to break, and it is consistent country to country all over the globe. Mm-hmm. And so I see it as, I've started LLCs and S Corps before, and this Cogni DAO, what I'm building right now, I don't have either of those. We're starting with the foundation of the chain is governing it, and then we will build adapters to, and if you want, press this button and you can be an LLC, mm-hmm. or press this button and you can be a company in China. Mm-hmm. It's adhering to company laws is a layer on top of the core Web3 principles of here's a mission-driven company that's governed on chain. Yeah.
There's lots of comments on all this stuff. Again, as someone that's been a part of a lot of DAOs, and it's like, you do a DAO. I don't know, man. Like the number of DAOs, right, that are actually sort of like, it's like unincorporated partnerships that have a legal presence in hundreds of jurisdictions and would have a taxable presence in hundreds of jurisdictions, just like a whole other point that we won't kind of like go into right now. Yeah. I guess so again, you talked, if you go right to the beginning, right, you're talking about creating effectively a wrapper for an agent, right, where that wrapper is owned by a DAO, and effectively that agent can go out, execute, manage capital, generate returns of some description, whatever that, and that's all being done on Web3 rails, where it's like transparent, it's there, and then those funds are governed by a multi-sig, which is set up as part of the DAO. Is this sort of like
you're nailing it,
right? This is all the sort of like the first stuff, right? And the point of all of that, I think, is to go back to the last point, is saying that it's like, what's interesting about that is that when that's all written in Web3 code, and again, you can have an argument about changing those rules, but if you've implemented those rules and you've got an agent which is executing against those laws and managing funds on chain, like things are just going to happen, right? Like someone can't rob the bank, right? And so this is the sort of the MVP that you're sort of like delivering, kind of like right now. Yeah. When's that going to be, kind of like ready? When's this?
A couple months ago, where every time I've built, I think, when I've talked to my CTO friends about this, and I describe what I'm building, they smack me in the face. They're like, dude, you're building 7 companies. And I'm like, I don't care. And so I'm at about stage 5 of like building an MVP of these components that all need to be stitched together. Though, to bring it back right now, the MVP is kind of live. If you go to my website right now, cognidao.org, it is a website that is hosted and paid for with like a crypto wallet, and that is open source, that you can see, and like you can click the GitHub button on my website and you go to it. And if you're a developer and you want to improve that website, you can fork it, make a contribution, and my AI code review bot will review your code against the principles of my code base. And if you approve, and if it passes that and all of the score of integration tests, your code gets merged. Like you can do it. Now,
and then it upgrades your main domain.
Yeah, and it ships. And
do they get paid for that?
So that's the part that I'm missing. And actually, it's a really cool project that died like 4 or 5 years ago called SourceCred, and I'm going to bring it back, which is basically giving people equity for their GitHub contributions, and you can make plugins. So this could be. You get equity for your Notion contributions. So right now, if you contribute to my project, you're getting a promise of payment that is unknown and questionable in the future, but it's definitely going to happen. But that is, I said there's 7 things to build. That's somewhere around step 5 or step 6. And I think that's going to be the next thing that I build.
Okay, so basically the challenge, the open challenge here is to go to cogni.dao, was it?
cognidao.org.
cognidao.org.
Yeah.
And try and get the agent to upload malicious code in in return for future equity in the
like I'm honestly living in the future. I can see where this is all going, and I know that there will be a day that people hack my stuff, and I'm kind of here for it, because at that point that means I have attention. And there's definitely a lot of safety rails right now against malicious code contributions, but someone's going to get by them, and we'll iterate and fix it and improve and move on. But dialing it back to, you mentioned like an AI governed entity. People, like some of the big thinkers and big, AI providers are like, in 5-10 years, we're going to have AI run companies. Let's make that so all these AI run companies are run by communities with a purpose and a mission. And in a world where if someone gives feedback on an application, you might have a new feature or a new bug fix shipped out to users within a day, or within less than a day.
Sure.
And in that world, the user that gave feedback to your application, give them a little bit of credit, give them a little kickback, because they are helping build this community.
Interesting. Why on earth did you come here?
Oh, I'm trying to build world-changing tech, so I need to be surrounded by people that are trying to build world-changing things. Like, I've read Balaji's book, The Network State. I pre-ordered it when it came out in 2022, I think. I've been captivated by the idea of this for a while, and Network State's been on my mind for a while. And so life events lined up, and I'm like, let's go. It's time to lock in, be surrounded by visionaries.
And how was it, you had an idea of what this would be before you turned up. How close to expectations was everything here?
It's pretty close to expectations, except I had no idea that I would be joining a layer 2 with a guy that's trying to start a country. That is not what I expected. Is that quiet?
No.
So I had no idea of that aspect, but the other parts of it is really online, which is I surrounded by really smart people building really creative things. I have scheduled workouts every day and healthy food and a dedicated workspace where I can lock in and do stuff. And that's what I was looking for, and we got it. It's pretty cool.
Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. Again, we've said it a number of times, right? Am I going to remember? cognidao.org.
Nailed it.
Right? Yeah. I want to hear someone on this stream eliminating his website because of the good service of this agent.
Someone hacked my website. Get cognidao.org showing something malicious.
But no, I wish you well with this. There's something there. We've not cracked DAOs properly. We've not cracked on-chain governance of traditional sort of entities. There's a lot there to be done. So good luck. I look forward to seeing you do it. Cheers, mate. See you in a bit. Oh, okay. We are on to the last of today. I don't know what number series this is now. We must have had like north of 30 guests or something that have come onto the show. I'm hoping you are seeing yourself in some of these guests and that you're feeling that you can come and join us here, right? First of the month, any month, come and join. Go to ns.com/arc/apply. Those go to me. You can come and join us, all right? Mate, please come join.
What's up, brother?
How are you? I love it that everyone's like, obviously you're always immaculately dressed, obviously, right? Like we've had free for free. Everyone's put shirts on kind of like today, right? So when we come to the office today, we normally wear suit and tie. We're challenging the status quo here, back to the corporate world. Oh dear. What are you doing here?
So I came to kind of meet some new people, check what's up. Maybe, have a dialogue on what I think about the world and see what comes out of it. I think it's going well so far, I guess, yeah.
So what do you think about the world?
So I think there's a lot of things to do. I think we're kind of doing the same things all over again, the last 5,000 years, I guess. And maybe to see what lies outside the system, maybe, and see what it takes, where it goes, and things like that. Yeah.
So what are some things that we've been repeating over 5,000 years?
I think debt, right? Trading commodities, and private property.
So okay, it's interesting, right? So private property was probably invented 5,000 plus years ago, right? With the sort of dawn of agriculture. Debt was, I mean, debt's just like, I mean, it's like, which argument do we want to start with, right? But debt's even older than private property, right?
You could make that case.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to borrow my phone for a minute? Right, okay, right. Like you have a debt, right? And give me it back, and I have a credit, right? But like, so debt was around even longer, right? Yeah. But I guess it's not maybe that type of debt that we're kind of like that you're kind of like referencing, right?
Yeah.
And then what was the third? You said debt, you said private property, and you said
trading commodities.
Trading commodities, and I guess trading commodities has been around probably. You needed a commodity to be able to lend it. Yeah. So trading commodities came first, then debt came, and then private property sort of came. Although to be honest, like, you can't lend something unless it's yours, can you? Like, so did private property come even before that? Just not the modern way we think about it.
I think private property came first.
Yeah.
And then debt was built on top of that. And then commodities kind of accelerated the whole process.
Okay, and so we've got some things that have been happening for a long time, right? Maybe even longer than several thousand years. And you think these could be improved?
I don't think it can be improved, but I think there are different starting points which could take us, could lead us somewhere else. Or maybe kind of these starting points could be the solution to the current problems we have and things like that.
Should we try and run through an example?
I think that's
not an illegal one. Maybe.
Yeah. I think that's a deep conversation, but there are a few. So it's a theory of change. 3 axioms, 3 pivots, and 3 mechanisms. So the 3 axioms are private property in land is bad. The second axiom is debt is bad, and the third axiom is trading commodities is bad, right? And the pivots are, you pivot from private property in land to mutual property in land. You pivot from pricing in debt to pricing in uncertainty of harm. And you pivot from trading commodities to trading decisions, right? And by follows, the 3 mechanisms would be mutual property is basically partial common ownership. So if capitalism is ownership is divided and the right to use is divided, and then communism is ownership is undivided and the right to use is undivided. So this is kind of like the middle ground. We can call it mutualism, where the ownership remains undivided, but the right to use is divided, right? So the mechanism here would be what peeps like Vitalik and Glenn Whale kind of unveiled in their whole radical markets, SALSA, self-assessed licenses sold by auction. So in this way, land belongs to everybody and nobody at the same time, and it's kind of ultra-capitalism. Kind of it's a radical market in how to allocate land to the best, and it flows to the guys with the best of needs, right? So that's the mechanism for that pivot. The second pivot is debt to uncertainty or harm. So I was a diplomat in climate change, and there are certain things that did not work there. And one thing is pricing externalities, right? And I think maybe I'm making a long shot here, but there is a kind of a chance to pivot from debt to uncertainty or harm. And we call this the negative tax theory. And so a negative tax theory is something that solves 2 problems. So it gives a double dividend for the citizens. It solves some kind of harm, and it increases the welfare of the people, right? So a few examples could be pollution, congestion, nuclear risk, AI risk, and things like that. So these things have externalities, right, which we do not know how to price in, right? So that whole negative tax theory and how that is kind of premised in this whole concept we call uncertainty or harm is another long conversation. So I kind of skip that. And then that is kind of linked to the third mechanism, which is trading commodities to trading decisions. I think prediction markets and second order prediction markets, what we call decision markets, could be a likely segue away from trading commodities. And
Yep.
all of these three things are interlinked.
Yep.
And the outcome of this entire theory of change is to kind of engineer a baseline of superabundance. By that I mean unequal basic income.
Yep.
We made the justification for ownership is undivided, so property kind of existed before freedom, and each of us own half the map. So and we deserve some kind of a baseline of income with no strings attached.
So I think that the helpful framing I feel for this sort of conversation, right, is that there's certainly a few things that I believe. One is that there are problems in the world right now. Yeah. And then I think that those problems are going to get, or like the macro environment for solving those problems is going to get harder. I think particularly with some of these the kind of like technologies that are coming, and again, not everyone believes this, but I'm certainly someone that isn't particularly bullish on the future of human employment. I've been writing for quite some time, about AI taking our jobs. And I think we are finally at that inflection point where it's a one-way train now. And if you get unemployed now, I think that the chance of you getting back in the workforce is just going to continue to decrease. And I guess the point is that, well, if humans don't have economic value in a traditional sense, that's a problem that we have never solved. And we're going to need new ways of thinking kind of about things. That's like one challenge. And another challenge, again, is someone that has spent quite a lot of time trying to price externalities. Like, we don't have any solution to this right now. And so I think that one of the things like about a lot of the work that you're doing, a lot of the thinking and the products that you're building is I'm like, okay, you might not agree with the solutions, but we don't have another solution to these problems right now. Like we literally do not. And so we have to be able to like engage and think about this stuff and run these experiments. And I think that's a big part of what we're doing here at ARC, at Network School, with these network states, and just the wider, I think actually just like the wider, broader sort of particularly like crypto and Web3 movement, right? Is a lot of this stuff is about like rapidly testing things, testing hypotheses to try and find better ways of doing stuff, right? But like there are serious problems. What are we going to do in a world where humans do not work? And how are we going to stop, causing all these externalities, And so again, I just put that as a basis, right? And then you come back to what you're saying, right? And you're going, okay, look, like maybe the problem is property, and maybe we need to move towards sort of like mutually sort of like kind of like own property, but really this is about radical markets. Next property is maybe debt, and you're saying, okay, instead of debt, let's move to this sort of like this uncertainty of harm sort of like principle, right? And then the last problem being commodities, and instead of that, moving towards prediction markets, right? And maybe to like run through these sort of like in kind of like briefly in each one, right? And try and do each one a little bit of justice in a couple of minutes, right? Maybe the radical market stuff is the easiest for people to sort of to understand, right? This is like traditionally has been labeled as like, because I think if someone hears you say that you're opening Gambit, right, they'd maybe think, oh, okay, this is a bit of a commie vibe here, right? Yeah. But actually, radical markets are considered like ultra capitalist, right? Like ultra capitalist, and it's mainly the left. But it's basically so ultra that the right struggle with this, right?
So when you go far too left, you end up right?
Well, it's just one big circle. I mean, that is certainly something that I've realized, and I think that's part of why I was a fan of radical markets, right, from the beginning, right? And I guess that what's the what you get the basic explanation of radical markets, right, is that again, you don't own anything. You just basically you're a temporary sort of like user of something, and anyone at any time can come and bid more than you do to use the asset that you have, at which point they can take ownership of that sort of asset, right? And the point being, as you alluded to, that this should help assets flow to where they are. Basically, they can have to generate the greatest yield or be most productive, right? But let's talk a little bit more radical markets.
Yeah, so we stop only at land. I know radical markets kind of extend to everything. I think they call it optimal Buddhism or something like that, but I don't believe in that concept. I think we should just stop in land. The reason being is, so I come from this the school of economics called Henry George, fringe economics, and he kind of makes this claim that property in land is indefensible as property in man. So he draws his analogy between human slavery and land slavery. So he goes in the whole concept of that. So maybe the next unlock is, okay, just how human slavery was abolished, and it kind of unlocked a new value and a kind of new system of new architecture for people to do things, right? I think land monopolies is one concept where maybe the next unlock would be there, right? And that, so if land monopolies are kind of collapsed, then debt collapses in and of itself, right? So the reason for radical markets is I like the concept of self-assessment. I think that is something that needs to be experimented with. Self-assess. So your land is in a perpetual reverse auction, right? And you're essentially given permits in a sense. So they call it SALSA, self-assessed licenses. So you see a land, you self-assess it, whatever that amount is, let's say $100,000. If it's valuable for you, you will assess it higher. If it's not valuable, you will not assess it higher. And you pay a kind of a turnover rate, right? So it's around 10 to 20%. And that goes into whoever is managing that land, right? And because the assumption here is each of us own half the map, the amount that is the public or the mutual revenue that is collected should be redistributed as natural inheritance, right? And that's the concept of the.
And again, and your phrase by like each of us owns half the map is effectively saying, okay, all the land that's out there is effectively mutually owned equally by every single individual, right? And it's effectively constantly auctioned, salsa style, to, and not mandated. No, you don't have to try and at least let you choose that. You say, this is a piece of land that I can use to do this, and I would value it at this to do this, right? And then if you are the highest bid for that piece of land, for that lease, for that time, you get it, and then you can do that thing there. But if someone comes along, like in London, there are all these, all these big old homes that could house, 30, 40 people in central London that house like one old person, right? And they've got the asset, they own the asset, but it's completely unproductive versus what it could be, right? And someone else could come along to that, and this is where it becomes difficult, right? But someone could come, that lady, that's that old woman on her own that has no income and just her asset, might only be able to afford $50,000 a year for this home, right? But actually the market would be very, very happy to pay $1 million a year for that, right? Because actually they can generate $10 million a year from sort of like the asset, right? And actually if what you care about are the finite resources that we have being used optimally for the benefit of everybody, then actually what you do want is you want that house to be able to generate 10 million, not 1 million of value, right? For society as a whole, particularly when then the underlying land owner and beneficial, ultimate beneficial owner of the yield that land is generating underneath that becomes everybody, right? I guess that's probably like the bull case, or like the metal man case, or whatever the one is for what this is doing. Yeah,
I would say that's the bull case. So if you take, I come from Sri Lanka, right? So it's an island, and it's already a kind of a half socialist country. It's quite successful, free healthcare, free education. I think it's one of the few countries in the world that kind of gives all of this for free. And we have a literacy rate of about 99%, right? I think it's one of the highest, I think.
Sri Lanka is a great place to visit if you've not been.
If you want to party,
Not just party, it's got like so much stuff there, right? You've got like safaris, you've got beautiful beaches, you've got beautiful mountains, you've got like the old sort of like, I don't know the right way that you would talk about it, right? But you've got like the old, kind of like middle of not just Kandy, but then the, the old sort of like empire tea plantations, all of those up in the mountains. Like it's a beautifully diverse country with not just partying as well, right?
Absolutely. So we have about 30% of land under the ownership of the government itself. So if you kind of take that land, residential and commercial, and then kind of put it on the salsa model, right? You can generate up to, so if you run some simulations with base numbers, you can generate up to $10,000 per person per annum, no strings attached, right? And our GDP per capita is like $2,000 to $3,000, right? So, and let's say our GDP is $80 billion, and about 79 is concentrated within about 1,000 to 2,000 people, right? So I don't see the point in this day and age. Maybe 300 years is fine, but 300 years ago is fine. But in this day and age, to optimize for GDP and trickle down economics is actually, it's a net negative. I would say it's a net negative. So if you can kind of generate this baseline of superabundance for a certain types of people, all the people in Sri Lanka, so at $10,000, so then development will move equally around the island, everybody will have some kind of a purchasing power
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
And I feel like that is it's a worthy cause to kind of spend the next 30 years in there.
Again, we're going to have to find a way that people are attributed value for being people, right? And not just because they're able to work in a mine, you know? Like, there's going to have to be some sort of other mechanism, right? Some people call it universal basic income. Some people call it universal basic compute. Some people call it universal high income, which I like as a broader approach.
I call it unequal basic income.
Exactly.
So
Do you want to quickly explain that one as well?
There has to be, I don't have my answers, but there has to be a hierarchy.
Yep.
It depends on where you place that hierarchy.
Yep.
So I think the only hierarchy I would kind of accept is the Quranic argument of, are they equal, those who know and those who do not know, right? So that's the only hierarchy that we have, right? So those who know and those who do not know, and whatever that means, however you interpret that. So I guess it depends on where you insert that hierarchy. And I do feel that, so I've spoken to many people about this, and some people argue for a hybrid approach where the government kind of, or the state kind of aggregates all of this basic income and then unlocks it, like the whole vesting kind of, like the whole crypto vesting, you know, you kind of unlock it according to your labor and things like that. There are a few things that can be done, but the whole purpose is to generate a source of mutual revenue that can be redistributed. So the dry answer would be just kind of just distribute it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Again, we don't have the answers to all of this, right? I mean, again, if we start moving into this problem that you have with it's interesting, this combination of problem with debt with the problem of pricing, sort of like externalities, right?
Yeah.
And to be really clear, with an externality, like you talked about being a diplomat for climate change, right? I think I've heard you maybe. I'm not going to quote you actually on that, just in case. I'll let you quote yourself if you want to, right? But you know, as someone that helps large enterprises as well, like try and price their externalities, right? The thing here is just like, okay, you know, you dig up a barrel of oil out of the ground, and like at some point in that supply chain, that oil ends up creating carbon emissions that go into the air, and those carbon emissions warm the planet, and that warming has an impact. And in certain places, for sure, that impact is negative. If you are Mauritius, you are concerned about the sort of like the 1%, the 1 centimeter sort of like rise in sea levels, right? Maybe the less argumentative one is like, okay, if there's a factory that is polluting a river to create widgets, they don't have to pay for the pollution of that river, right? It's not a cost which is on their balance sheet unless we force that company to pay for the pollution of that river, right? And that's like an externality, right? That like, it's like, okay, unless we, for some reason, price that externality of the pollution of the river and basically force that company to do it, whether that's just through like public shaming if they don't do it, or whether it's via regulation, the point is it is not a cost they have to bear, right? The cost they would have to bear might be like, instead of just pouring it into the river, an additional cost would be like actually, you know, deconstructing the pollution, turning it into safe waste, and all of this would have a big cost, right? They would actually have to bear, but they don't. They just pour it into the rivers. This is like an externality, right? And the challenge with that is like, how do you price them and how do you stop these externalities? Because they impact other people than the person that's doing it.
And you do not know if it's harmful or not. See, that's the problem here, right? Like we do not know. So
climate change is warming the planet, right? Like, you know, the plants have never been greener. Like, you know, like.
So to quote myself, I mean, I think climate change is a scam. I think the theory of change is fundamentally flawed. I don't think it's not addressing the right problem, right? I think the right problem right now is to basically retire humanity so that they don't survive anymore, and they can. Because there's this concept, right? If consciousness if consciousness is revolutionized, there's no need for reform, right? Like I think it's a double whammy in that sense, right? So the reason why we should pivot from debt is because debt accelerates the gap between the rich and the poor, right? The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? And maybe that's a problem, maybe that's not. I certainly think it is. I think wealth inequality is a big problem. And I think if any theory of change is proposed, I think it should address that first. And then the rest should follow from there. So the reason why we can price externalities is, first of all, there's an uncertainty of harm.
Sure.
Right?
You don't know it's going to happen in the future.
We do not, yeah.
Like you pollute the river, like
Yeah.
you don't know what it's going to do.
So we do not know if carbon emissions are harmful. Like that's the fact, right? Because 10, 20 years ago, they said carbon emissions were this harmful, and now the number is coming down, right? And by time, we do not know what happens because we will have more knowledge, right? So the concept of negative tax theory is you kind of hook onto a system, right? And that system has some kind of harm, right? And let's take pollution, okay? So the main premise is that we do not know if carbon emissions are harmful or not. That's the starting point, right? And then you anchor yourself in some kind of a scientific consensus, a P2P science forum, like IPCC or something like that, right? And then you can kind of infer from there, okay, they say the central estimate of 1 ton of carbon emissions, the cost is around $180. Okay, cool, fine. So we select the higher up estimate, right? And we release 30-year or time-based zero coupon treasury bonds pegged to that higher up estimate. So to make it easy, let's say it's $1,000. We're overestimating the harm, which is good, right? And the whole premise here is in 30 years, we will know as to better as how much 1 ton of carbon costed in 2025. So in 2055, we will have more knowledge as to how much 1 ton of carbon costed in 2025, right? So the whole game here is a rate of return on overpaid funds plus accrued interest, okay? The only problem here is you have to enforce it. Right? That's the only problem I have with it, right? Sure. But other than that, it works fine, right? And now the problem comes, okay, people do not want to hold this for 30 years, right? So to bring a liquid redemption of these bonds, we introduce, and we have the other axiom that we can't trade commodities because commodities can accelerate private property, and it's the whole thing together, right? Sure. So the reason why we bring prediction markets or decision markets is a way for people to redeem those bonds at any point in time t. Mm-hmm. And the prediction markets reflect the evolving belief of how much 1 ton of carbon costed, right? And it's a continuous market, right?
So maybe we could just go back to the beginning, make sure we count, right? So the point is like, okay, so you want to pollute 1,000 tons, right? So you're saying if it's $1,000 a ton at the highest potential harm that this is going to cause, right? You need to buy a bond for 1,000 tons at $1,000, right? You need to buy $1 million that can buy a bond, right? And then on the basis that you have that bond, you are able to go and do the potential damage.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
You can do it as long as you sort of like have the bond, which covers the action that you're going to take, right? I guess one of the useful things about debt is that if you don't have the money, you're able to borrow it. Right, you're able to pull value from the future, give it to yourself now, and then put back up top, right? So if you tell me I got to pay $1 million to do this action, I'm like, where do I get a fucking $1 million from? Because I don't get the money from doing the action until I've done it, right? Like most people don't get paid before doing their sort of like services, right? They get paid afterwards, right? And so it's like I have to front the money for the bond to then do the thing that I make the money to be able to like afford the bond. Wouldn't that be like a really good reason to like introduce debt to then for me to be able to like borrow to pay the bond and then I can pay it back when I sell it on the next stage in terms of that prediction market stuff, or is that?
Yeah, so we have a saying, right? Lenders love debt, borrowers hate debt.
Sure.
Yeah. So when you go in that concept, right, and this negative tax theory is kind of it makes sense from a top-down point of view, as of now for me. Right, you can't. So, let's say you take Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin has a certain externality, right, which could be a new asset class in and of itself. Right, it's released about 120 million tons of emissions since its inception. Right, and this is an asset class that could be generated from the get-go. Right, as something new. Right, and which could be pegged onto Bitcoin, and you can create other derivatives out of it and stuff like that, right? So the reason why the reason why the whole private property thing is anchored into this theory of change is because to kind of price in externality, get the money up front, buy up land, and kind of put it in a mutual ownership so that we can redistribute the income. So without the land question, this thing falls apart. because you're not solving any problem then, right? But if you take it as it is, the negative tax theory as it is, the proposition here is that people would reduce the amount of pollution that would take place over the next 30 years because they can't pay this amount, right? So there's a lot of there's a lot of grokking to go up and down. This is just a baseline theory. But I see it as a kind of what do you call a new source of value. Right, which can be priced through prediction markets, and that's why I'm building something called the War Machine.
Excellent,
right? Warmachine.fun.
We got there in the end. You know,
yes, all of that is for all of this. Right?
Yes.
So War Machine is basically to validate the concept of decision markets, so that we can move into zero coupon treasury bonds, and then we can move into addressing the land question, right? Because if the trading commodities, trading decisions is not validated, none of this works. Right? So War Machine is basically second order prediction markets or decision markets, where we try to reveal the causation between certain actions in a conflict region, right? So this was actually a project done by DARPA back in the 2000s, and it was shut down by Congress because of bad optics. Because you're betting on terror and things like that. And then Ethereum's first product was prediction markets as well. Didn't take off because of legality.
Augur, Gnosis back in the day. Right?
Augur and stuff like that. So Polymarket's doing its job.
Now,
It's pretty cool.
I'm sorry I didn't invest in. Sorry.
So I guess they did all the hard work of getting the legality and all of these things sorted. So if Polymarket is yes or no, War Machine would be if then or what if markets. Right, so how will something affect something else?
Yes.
So we're only worried about the causation, right? So we're a causal inference, right? So in this, we will be able to reveal the hidden actions between empires. So basically, you have the geography. You have, let's say, you take the Holy Land, Syria, Israel, Palestine, whatever you want to call it, and then you kind of abstract the empire out of it, so that all the nation states can come under the banner of empire, and how empire's foreign policy affects the murder rate in the Holy Land. That is one decision market. So you're basically having certain decision hooks. Okay, will Netanyahu be overthrown? Will Donald Trump increase the military aid? Will Iran be sanctioned? These are like decision hooks. And then you're also tracking some certain rate of changes, murder rate, GDP, some economic indicators, some political indicators, and things like that. So you can map out the entire probability space and get people to bet on it. And we're trying to kind of reveal the causation between certain things. So in a sense, it's like Palantir, but it's a market-based version of Palantir trying to achieve the same outcome with an extra step of trying to reveal the hidden motives between empire, because nation state runs on fake news, right? So it's a kind of a market-based mechanism to reduce bias. So once we validate that, then we can start thinking about conflict bonds. If you want to rebuild Palestine, if you want to rebuild Israel, or whatever you will call it, you can kind of release these zero coupon treasury bonds as some part of a harm. You select some kind of harm. If it's nuclear risk, it's nuclear risk, and you release these conflict bonds. You kind of raise money up front. You kind of crowdfund land, network state, and then kind of put it under the mutual ownership model, and then try to redistribute natural inheritance.
That's super interesting. That's like a ton there. Let's start at the beginning. Is it warmachine.fun?
Warmachine.fun, yeah.
If you're not going to that domain, I don't know what you're doing. Like who is not going warmachine.fun right now? It does actually look very fun, even though it's a very serious topic,
we're making
right?
some changes on the back end, so the markets page is not live yet. So, but yeah, it will be live probably December, January.
I mean, it was working. There are some, I've seen it sort of like live, etc. Is there a wait list at least that people can go?
Yeah, but I haven't opened it yet. But it's
open a wait list so these people can sort of like see it, right? It will be there by the time you see this, right? Like in 5 seconds. But I just want to like try and just capture those last points you've made there, so that we're doing it justice, right? I guess again the point is saying it's almost like what if markets, right? So because you're saying that there is this policy that this empire might do, what would the impact be on this other thing of that sort of like policy? And the example again that you've been running sort of like live is, for example, the murder rate in the Holy Land, right? And the reason that you care about that, right, again, is that you are told that the impact of a certain policy might be peace or might be whatever it is, right? But then the reality is maybe something very different. And the beauty of a prediction market or decision market like this, right, is that there is an incentive for the actual truth to be revealed, right? Because basically there is a market which is like, okay, policy X, which we are told takes the murder rate to 0. Well, actually there's a market where people effectively I don't want to say bet, but they basically bet that that is or is not the case. And if you actually have very good information that this is not a peaceful policy in any way, and this is actually going to increase the murder rate, you have a massive incentive to basically to fund that market, because you will get paid out if you are correct, and the murder rate is actually higher, right? And so then you can, as an individual that's being told on the news that, that this policy is going to create peace, you can go and look at this decision market and you can see that when actually the market does not think this is going to create peace, right? And that's like a very, very useful thing. I mean, this is broadly sort of why polymarket's risen to fame in a more simplistic fashion, right? Is that it's helping people understand truth ahead of things becoming sort of like public knowledge or ahead of reality, right?
Yeah, and it's a good way to kind of take the public perception of gambling. They think prediction market is gambling, but it's really not. It's one of the oldest markets in speculation, and I think it's more intuitive to human nature and things like that. So, and if you validate the war machine, you can kind of move into drug research. You can move into more niche markets, and kind of use market-based mechanism to kind of reveal certain inferences that you could not think it was possible. And it's also a good source of data for training AI as well. In certain senses. So it's a bit more deeper than that. There are much more.
There's loads. Again, does this policy increase or decrease the lifespan of whatever? Just all of this sort of stuff, right? Again, you're creating frameworks like this, and I guess you're starting with warmachine.fun, because again, it's like a bloody important topic, right? And if you can actually shed some truth and some light on that, and
it's the hardest, high stakes environment, and if I can prove it there, I think the rest will become easier.
If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? Like that, as it were, right?
That's it.
But this is important, right? Again, this is actually, I think, like some of the stuff that, like, particularly the Ethereum community has historically been amazing at doing is running important experiments like this and sort of like learning. So I'm really optimistic for you. I think you're doing important work. Again, I think so. I do. It's like we go back to these questions that we don't have answers to yet, right? And again, like maybe you have answers. Like maybe you don't have the entire, solution, right? But there are things that you're working on that people can go and play with right now, and we can learn together. So, warmachine.fun. Thank you so much for being here. Any other final words?
No, I think I spoke a lot, man.
No, it was great. It was great. It's good. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Sure.
We're going to end it there. I think I have to book a flight to fly away in a few hours, so I should probably get on with my life as well. Thank you for coming in and listening to us again. I hope it was entertaining for you. And if you would also like to come and be a part of creating world peace, then please come and join us. Thank you very much for being on the stream. Appreciate it.